What's cracking, guys? Omar Isaf here, back with another video. Joined today by two strong guys, two hot guy babes. We have Alan Thrall, alone, as I think you're affectionately referred to. Thank you for what you've done, your contributions.
Of course.
And Joey, Zatsberry, Zat Strength. We're in the Lion's Den, here today to answer some fatness questions, because we're all fitness influenzas. Alan's just stoked. Like, you know, there's on the level of how excited you can be. So we're gonna get started with a fitness Q&A, attempting to answer all your questions. Keep in mind, we'll try and have some brevity to our answers. We won't be able to answer every single question, but we'll do our best and we'll pick the ones we think they'll help the most amount of people. So let's start with the first one to help people out. Favorite metal bands?
I have the most history with Metallica.
Yeah.
We go way back. So I would say Metallica. I also like Slayer. I like Death. I like Sepultura. I'll just stop there.
Yeah.
I'm a big Slipknot fan, so I'll just keep it short, sweet, to the point, and I like Slipknot.
I think you got started honestly with Sabbath, because Sabbath is where it's at. And then I would definitely take Megadeth over Metallica any day of the week.
I call that.
Wow.
Rust in peace. Oh, absolutely.
You can have it, dude. It's fine.
It is the most melodically, harmonically, and rhythmically interesting, I think, of the thrash metal albums, in my opinion. Anyway, it's just an opinion.
You're 18, I know too much.
That is exactly what he sounds like. I'm just going to, like, blur it out. Now, a serious question. Overhead press problems, and this is actually kind of perfect because we got two strong guys. This individual finds that the overhead press is harder than the other three lifts to increase. So the squat, bench, deadlift is chill, it's fine. The overhead press he seems to be struggling with. Any pieces of advice for anyone that's struggling with the overhead press, proportionally compared to the other lifts?
I know we're going to answer the same way, so go ahead, Joe. I'll let you talk.
Do it more, so press more. One of the biggest things that had helped increase my overhead press was increasing my frequency. So I used to press one time a week. I think at the most, Alan had me pressing, because he helped coach me, about 4 times a week. I think throughout the week, that's how many times I was pressing and doing different variations of the press. So pin pressing, maybe banded press, something crazy like a pause press, a push press, something along those lines. But to keep it short and sweet to the point, increase the frequency, try different variations, and that will seem to help most with the problem with the press.
Yeah, I think that a mistake a lot of people make, beginners make, is prescribing the same amount of volume to your press or even to your upper body as to your lower body. And I think that your just pressing specifically can handle way more volume and it responds better to that, and I think you need it. So it doesn't mean you need to press 4 times, go from once a week to 4 times a week, but start out doing it twice a week, 3 times a week, and then just move on. I think that you can adapt and get used to pressing more.
As a personal anecdote, I also found singles for the overhead press very beneficial. Not to say that other movements don't see that benefit, but I think there is something different from when you go from 80% to 90% to your 1 rep max on the overhead press, where just that total body tension, because you start from that dead stop as opposed to a squat and bench. We're just working on that quality, could be very helpful. How to make eating a lot easier. So I assume this is a hard gainer. Do you still adhere to the kind of that video you made about the 10,000 calories? Not 10,000, but like some of the approaches to massive eating.
Yeah, if you're wanting to gain weight. What was the question though? Like tips on how to eat more?
To make eating a lot easier. So I'm going to assume he's a hard gainer because he's struggling to eat his current amount of calories.
Yeah. Things that are easier to eat: liquid calories, protein shakes, yogurt, ice cream, things that are just easier to eat. I think will fill in a lot of those gaps that you need a whole lot of calories. Being prepared, so having lots of food made in advance is going to make sure you don't miss meals. Bring food with you. Bring a cooler if you're going to work or whatnot. So just always have food on hand. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, just stuff that's easy to eat.
Yeah, when I was trying to stay in a caloric surplus, I would always eat peanut butter and honey sandwiches. Lots of them.
Yeah.
Very cost effective and very dense in calories.
That's a good question. Bulking on a budget. Can you say kidney beans and lentils? Have you guys ever messed with those?
No.
They're the cheap.
I would rather go
rice, beans, lentils, in terms of
Bush's
cost.
baked beans and top ramen or
With
something.
you on that one.
Top ramen. You mean in terms of personal preference, or I'm
In
thinking
terms of,
raw
like, calories.
cost? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or like candied sweet potatoes. like in a can.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not like that syrup.
Yep.
I'll just drink that stuff.
Have you ever been poor, bro? Because we're talking about rice, beans. How cheap is a can?
Yeah, but how many
cheap that
people
is,
are
dude?
going to go cook?
Dude, that's like a poor
How many
man's
people are going
food.
to cook rice and beans?
I'm saying proportionally. I think I totally hear what you're saying, but I think proportionally for the amount of the cost per calorie would be the lowest with rice
I think
and
we
beans.
need to go to the food store.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
I think we need to get a poor man's budget for a bulking diet video.
Because you could buy like 30
I would
pounds
say,
of rice, cooking rice
beans,
for
and like eggs.
Yeah, so we're going on a protein now for sure. I was going like
yeah,
that.
milk. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I'm right. You're like, nah, questionable.
To be continued.
What has been your biggest obstacle in your lifting career, diet, programming, form?
My biggest obstacle actually recently, and I was actually talking to these guys off camera, was not having to do with programming or diet or anything, but actually after winning nationals, kind of what to do next. It was more just like I've put in a ton of time to training for something, and I think this is, going to be a common thing shared with higher level athletes is once they get to what they think may be the top, right? Like you kind of go through this huge, like almost like downward of like, oh man, what do I do? Where do I go? So for me, it's just been trying to figure out what's next. And we were talking, and what's something that really has helped me is just doing whatever is fun, not really caring much about the program per se, but just moving and kind of falling in love with just training. So that's just kind of been probably the biggest obstacle I've faced recently. And but I'm living life and things are good.
So for you guys, how would you program simultaneously the squat, bench, deadlift, and then trying to become proficient and excel in weightlifting? So snatch, clean, and jerk.
Depends on what you kind of want to prioritize a little bit more, I would say. So if you want to have more of the weightlifting emphasis on it, I put that in the beginning of the week. So like your snatch and then your clean and jerk, maybe day 1, day 2. And then kind of follow that up with some sort of variation of a squat maybe, or another type of powerlifting movement. And then throughout the week, typically for clean and jerks, you probably want to have the frequency, anywhere from like 2 to 3 times a week, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, anything crazy, but just kind of doing some sort of work with a barbell. Maybe it's a complex, whatever. You can regulate the intensity however you need to. But then on those days, I would probably front load it with more of the powerlifting movements. So they kind of just flip-flop. So if you have your 2 first days with weightlifting, maybe put that first and then supplement it with some powerlifting or accessory work. And then maybe later in the week, you kind of have your bench, your squat, or your deadlift with the Olympic lifting as a tail end, or maybe even as some sort of warm-up or technique stuff you want to work on. And if it's powerlifting, take what I just said and flip it around, where you'd have your main lifts in the beginning of the week that you wanted to emphasize on, maybe ending with a little bit of barbell work. And then towards later in the week, you can put your Olympic lifting in there, if that makes sense.
Max out Fridays.
Max out Fridays, yeah. I used to do that all the time. I've actually made a video on this, pretty sure on Brian Oliver's channel, but I lay out an entire free program where I put that together. So that's just a shameless plug for another video on another channel.
Awesome. Now
Down the rabbit hole.
I'll link it in the
that
description.
you guys can watch.
Yeah.
And just give it a shot. But it comes down to what are you trying to focus on? Powerlifting or weightlifting, and then go from there.
How do you guys keep motivated when your strength numbers begin to slow down?
I'm motivated to get them back up. I just enjoy lifting weights. I like being in the gym, so that comes first and foremost. Trusting the, pursuing the process more than the goal, like Omar says often. But yeah, there's a number of things that I can get better at, not just bench, squat, deadlift. It's not to say I don't care about those things. I decided to sign up for a strongman competition and try to improve those 5 events that'll be tested.
Best advice for someone starting out in his powerlifting journey?
I would say try to find some powerlifting friends. Have fun. I know that's always suggested. Sign up for your first meet now. Don't wait until you think you have some arbitrary numbers, because it really doesn't matter. So go compete and learn now. As you go to these competitions more and more, you'll meet more and more people. You might find out where everyone's training. And I think that powerlifting and strongman and just going to the gym in general is more enjoyable when you have a group of people to do it with.
What are a couple of the dumbest things you guys have done in your lifting career? Or maybe not mistakes as a beginner, but if there was something you could go back and change. I'll actually start and just say that if I was better, kind of like what Joey was describing, in the video we did about like lean gaining. The whole concept of consistently being in a small surplus. I would routinely, for my first 5 to 6 years, if I was bulking, I would excessively bulk, and just the ratio between fat mass and muscle mass would be completely whacked. Where I'd then have to spend 10 weeks, 12 weeks losing some of that fat mass down the road. Or if I wasn't focusing on gaining, I was doing a shitty job of just trying to build muscle. I was barely maintaining, where I wouldn't be eating consistently. I wouldn't be aware of the protein. And actually, I, as a person, have a tendency to undereat. So I just go through these periods of either packing on too much fat or not eating enough. So it's kind of this no man's land. And if I, over the length of my career, if I could have been more consistent with my approach, I think I'd be slightly further along. Not in a major way, but slightly further along.
I wouldn't say it was anything that I did, but something that I didn't do. There was a point, a period of time when I really wanted to get bigger, gain weight. I didn't really care what it looked like. I just want to be a big guy. I want to be a big, strong guy. And I would train really, really hard in the gym, but I didn't even make the connection that I have to actually eat. And so I would put all this work in the gym and not really eat. And I would go, and when I wasn't gaining any weight, I was like, maybe I need to do more. Maybe I need to go to the gym longer or more often. And it wasn't until I realized, I need to eat some food to actually gain weight that started to gain weight.
Something that I did not do was probably my biggest mistake, and that was deadlift. I didn't deadlift until the last couple of years. I know it's hilarious to some, but it's the truth.
Pretty common.
What's up?
It's pretty common for a lot of.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not for a strong man.
I guess I hear a lot. Well, it's like weightlifters who don't really deadlift.
They do like clean pulls.
A lot of athletes don't really deadlift. They'll do some pulls or power cleans, and then they get into powerlifting and they're like, I'm just learning how to deadlift.
Yeah. Like my deadlift has increased dramatically, and all my other lifts have just increased marginally based on the sole fact that it was so undertrained. So the last couple of years I've just been trying to catch up on lost time with the deadlift. So I'd recommend that you guys deadlift and do it more.
I think that to piggyback off that, I never did deadlifts when I first started lifting because it was for football, and our football coach never had us do deadlifts. And when I did start, the first program I actually did, like barbell program, was 5-3-1, and you had that deadlift day. And I remember doing the deadlifts and asking my buddy who showed me the program, like, what is this doing? Like, what? I was just like, it was just the shortest range of motion standing up, and I really was like, what is the point of this? I grew to love it, but it was weird just picking up weight and setting it down.
So you would not agree at that time, if you can't deadlift, then there's no reason to live. To paraphrase that strongman.
Yeah, I was about to kill myself.
Yeah, you were on the precipice. What makes you feel vulnerable? That's a good one.
When Omar stares in my eyes, and I
And
turn
I don't
away,
blink?
and then I stare straight into Alan's eyes, I feel very vulnerable. Brownies, bagels, donuts, everything on the other side of this wall that we're staring at.
Is there anything you guys want to say in closing quickly, like either something we didn't cover or like whatever, before I just close it out and show you guys?
My belly is hot.
Why is your belly hot? Like, just why?
I'll just say I'll never
Trust.
trick Joey into eating sour cream again.
So what you're trying to say is you put out a negative vibe into the world, and then when it came back, you realized your mistake.
Yeah, karma, I guess. Is that what you're trying to say?
I didn't want to label it,
There's that
but
phrase like payback's a bitch or something. I don't know. I think I've heard it
payback
once.
is a hot sauce.
Yeah. It's Magnum 357.
Well, guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe to Alan, whose stomach is burning, and Joey, who caused the burning. You doing all right? Mm-hmm. You're like, I don't want to talk about it. And I'll see all you guys, my rascals, in that next one. Peace. Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your fucking vegetables.